This is Shelley Kraft coming to you live on SNNLive On-Location in New York City. I have with me Dr. Tim Miller, Abeona Therapeutics. It's a company that's public, and the symbol is ABEO. Tim, welcome to SNNLive.
Shelley, thanks for having us on.
It's good to have you. Let's get an overview on the company, if you would.
Sure. So Abeona is a rare disease company that's doing gene and plasma-based therapies for children with rare genetic disorders. We've got some really exciting gene therapies going into clinical trials later on this year.
Well, do you have orphan designation?
We do, actually, for both of our lead products. For treatments of Sanfilippo syndrome type A and type B, we have our orphan product designations. We also have the rare pediatric disease designation, which is important because it's en route to the priority review voucher. It's a prerequisite step that you have to be able to receive that.
You know, Tim, I go a little bit back in the industry, and I remember that orphan diseases were treated like orphans. That's changed. The market is seeking out companies dealing with orphan diseases. Am I correct?
Oh, you're very much correct. You know, as you know, there are 7,000 rare diseases. 95% of them do not have a cure either approved or in the works by companies. And for the diseases that we're working on, 70% of these kids don't reach the age of 18. So with the advances in these gene therapies and these technologies, you see a much more broader application of these therapies for these kids.
So I bet you're very popular in the mommy lobby.
Well, I think that all of the parents are very, very pleased that these therapies are coming to clinical trials.
So Tim, tell me about some of the diseases that you're going after.
So some of our diseases are Sanfilippo syndromes type A and type B. We're also looking at juvenile Batten disease. These are lysosomal storage diseases. Again, these are devastating neuromuscular diseases. And many of our patients and our families and really our clinicians have personal stories that really resound and reasons for them to get into these therapies, to help develop these therapies for these kids.
What's your background?
My background is I have a Ph.D. in molecular biology, pharmacology from Case Western Reserve University, and I've been working in biotech companies for about 15 years.
So what do you see in the near term? I want to get into something, talk about some new announcements, what you have going on in the company, if you would.
Sure. So we are filing in the next few weeks, our first applications with the FDA to get into clinical trials by the end of this year. We've raised over $15 million recently from Soros and Perceptive. Great funds, great institutional investors that have been very excited to help advance these therapies and really try to drive value for the families, but also value for our shareholders.
Where are you doing the trials?
So we're starting at Nationwide Children's Hospital in Columbus, Ohio, which has spun out a few other companies that have recently made news in fundraising for, again, other gene therapies for their programs for these kids. And we're starting to go in 2016 to Europe and Australia.
So where do you see the company technically in 2016 into 17? Obviously, you have a first trial soon.
Right, so we know that after giving these genetically modified viruses, within 10 days of delivering these viruses, that we can correct the underlying cellular defects. We know that we propose that when we are able to treat these kids, we're going to be able to see these effects within 30 days, that we see proof of concept, we see biopotency. We know that when we start treating these kids in 2015, 2016, we'll be able to demonstrate that that these viruses get to all areas of the body and be able to, we hope, have some level of benefit.
What is the potential for reimbursement for the cost of these drugs to these families?
Yes, that's a great question. And many of the companies that are involved in the gene therapy space are working with the different payers, to try and establish, what type of rates that these would be reimbursed at.
So what about R&D? I mean, that's got to be a big cost for your company.
Yeah, sure.
And obviously, you've got a lot of costs coming up in trials. I mean, past the phase 1s, and then you go into 2s, and then ultimately into 3s. What are you going to do for cash going down that
so
road?
It's one of the critical issues with these type of gene therapies and plasma therapies is being able to control your own destiny and control your own manufacturing. And so to do that, we're building out our own GMP manufacturing facility in Cleveland, Ohio, to be able to do that. There are only 6 to 8 places in the world that can make these gene therapy vectors en route to commercialization. We're going to be able to do that. It helps make sense financially. It helps make sense to be able to make 8 to 12 clinical lots a year.
How many employees do you have? Because I'm sure they're all, genius PhDs.
Yeah, we have a great team, both here and in New York, also in Dallas. We're currently looking for a number of open positions. It's been a great time for us as the company is really going through expansion.
I think that, drawing from the talent pool, it should not be a difficult thing to grab, some top people, even internationally. I mean, really.
No, it's true. Actually, what you see is a lot of the gene therapy companies are really pulling out of the academic centers right now the expertise needed to drive these therapies to commercialization.
So if you had one wish that you could make that would come true in the near term, what would that be?
That we'd get these clinical trials started as soon as possible.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get your website out there for more information if you would.
Sure. Our website is www.abeonatherapeutics.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Tim Miller, Abeona Therapeutics. It's a publicly traded company, and the symbol is ABEO. I'm Shelley Kraft. This is SNNLive. We're coming to you on location in New York City. Dr. Tim, thanks for coming.
Thank you, Shelley.